It's Tuesday, August 25. This is the news on PBCJ. I'm Simone Absalom. Jamaica's confirmed COVID-19 cases are now up to 1,612, with 83 new positives recorded on Monday. Prime Minister Andrew Holness gave an update at a virtual press brief at Jamaica House.
Today, we have 83 new cases, which brings our total to 1,612 cases. We have 53 persons hospitalized, including 45 positive cases. We have 45 persons isolated in government facilities, 604 isolated at home, 15 in quarantine in government facilities, and we have 29,724 persons quarantined at home.
Facing a spike in COVID-19 cases, the government has announced new measures to hopefully flatten the rising curve of the pandemic on the island. Prime Minister Andrew Holness outlined the measures as he addressed a virtual press conference at Jamaica House. Melvin Pennant has that story.
First in the new measures, it involves the curtailing of movement to slow down the spread of the virus. Therefore, there will be a tightening of curfew hours.
The island-wide curfew time will be brought forward from 11 p.m. to 9 p.m. effective Thursday, August 27 until September 30th, 2020. I'm asking everyone to understand that as of Thursday, if you live in the parishes other than St. Thomas, Kingston, St. Andrew, St. Catherine, and Clarendon, the curfew starts at 9 p.m. and will end the following morning at 5 a.m., and this will continue daily until September 30th, 2020. So for clarity, the 7 p.m. to 5 a.m. curfew remains in effect for the parishes of St. Thomas, Kingston, St. Andrew, St. Catherine, and Clarendon until the 2nd of September 2020. Thereafter, and until September 30th, 2020, the curfew in these parishes will be from 9 p.m. to 5 a.m., consistent with the other parishes in Jamaica.
The next step involves limiting potential spreader events, such as funeral services, church services, and other public gatherings.
Last Friday, we indicated that the parishes of St. Thomas, Kingston, St. Andrew, Clarendon, and St. Catherine, for those parishes, funeral services will be prohibited. Churches will be able to hold their regular worship services. We are now extending this prohibition to the entire island, effective Thursday, August 27, 2020. Burials, however, will continue, but with strict observation and enforcement of the 15-person rule. And the 15-person rule includes no more than 10 mourners, with the additional 5 persons comprising the officiating clergy, the funeral officials, and persons preparing the gravesites. Funeral processions in Jamaica as of August 27, 2020, will only be allowed to include the hearse, the vehicles taking the officiating clergy, and the mourners. Normal church service, which operate in compliance with the established protocols, which have worked very well so far, will continue. Congregants are reminded that gatherings in excess of 20 persons are not allowed outside the place of worship. When the service ends, please leave the church premises without congregating outside the place of worship. We're seeing a clustering of cases occurring in a number of communities within the corporate area. We have decided that we will take some additional measures for these communities. So effective Thursday, August 27, persons will be required to remain at home, which means staying in their yard space, in addition to staying inside, outside of curfew hours.
In all of this, the Prime Minister urged citizens to take personal responsibility in their response to the pandemic.
The virus cannot move unless we move. And so the measures that we are putting in place are designed now to limit movement, to limit unnecessary movement. I'm discouraging persons from interacting with others who are not a part of your immediate household. As difficult as it is to hear, we have had young persons die in Jamaica as a result of COVID-19.
The measures are nothing new, and the government had always maintained that they would revisit the same if the need arises. With COVID-19 cases now at 1,612 and rising, the time to act is now. Melvin Pennant, PBCJ News.
It will cost an estimated $54 million to clear and repair corridors across the island that were impacted by flooding brought on by Tropical Storm Laura. The storm dumped inches of water on the island between Sunday and Monday, causing flooding in some areas and infrastructural damage. National Works Agency CEO E.G. Hunter gave an update on Monday at a press briefing at Jamaica House.
Some 20 locations and communities island-wide have been identified as having been impacted by the rainfall. The 20 locations are in 7 parishes, and the total estimated costs to reopen the various corridors impacted by the rainfall now stands at about 54 million Jamaican dollars. Thankfully, we will be able to accommodate this expenditure within the parameters of our existing budget. This is the initial preliminary assessment, and as the evening progresses into tomorrow, we may get additional reports of damages. Nevertheless, as always, we're prepared and mobilized to carry out mitigation exercise.
St. Thomas is sometimes referred to as the forgotten parish, this undesirable distinction owing to its lack of development. However, St. Thomas was not forgotten by Tropical Storm. The weather system severely impacted sections of the agrarian-dependent parish. We get more in this report. As the outer bands of Tropical Storm Laura lashed the island on Sunday, some residents in Bull Bay and surrounding areas were worried that their homes could be taken away by the torrent of water rushing down the riverbed. Sections of Cane River Bridge collapsed.
We're at the intersection of Fonthill and Georgia. At the moment, we're marooned. People are marooned in the area, and the people are disgruntled because the people mentioned that they told the NAA, the contractors, that the bridge would not be efficient to hold the water and the debris coming from the other communities, like from Cedar Valley and all the other communities.
Many looked on Monday as tractors and workmen worked to secure the riverbank. Some explained that they had to relocate in the middle of the night after hearing what sounded like an earthquake. Residents of the surrounding community explained that between illegal miners and authorized quarry operators taking stones from the riverbed, the area has become an environmental hazard over the years. The Rural Agricultural Development Authority, RADA, wants more households to get into farming. RADA's CEO, Peter Thompson, says come September, the agency will be rolling out a program geared at assisting householders that have adequate land space in their backyards to get their farm going. He says the agency will be providing kits, which will include packages of seeds, fertilizers, and probably some chemicals, as well as instructions as to how to grow particular vegetables, condiments, and others. The CEO noted that persons interested in getting additional information may call the agency's office in Kingston at 876-977-1158-262 or toll free at 1-888-ASK-RADA. That's 1-888-275-7232. As Jamaica faces unprecedented challenges associated with COVID-19, including the loss of income and families having to stay at home, the group Jamaica for Jamaicans came up with an idea to help families spend time together outdoors while simultaneously providing them with much-needed supplies. Marlon Samuels visited the Standpipe community in Ligani and filed this report.
I must have to remember wear your mask and sanitize the gate when you come in, you know what I mean? It's all about the treat and the fun day, back to school. Courtesy of the Standpipe community.
A lot of families in the Standpipe community in Ligani, Kingston, lost their jobs due to the advent of the coronavirus COVID-19 in March. In these uncertain times, many are faced with how to make ends meet with dwindling incomes. They also have the added stress of keeping their children indoors and engaged. Recognizing the needs, the charity group Jamaica for Jamaicans recently lent a helping hand.
All right, so the bags have books, school pencils, crayons, and cereals. And the packages are distributed throughout the whole entire community. So from the beginning of Standpipe to the exit. From Providence Primary to here, you know what I mean? All who is in need, and every child is in need, because at the end of the day, we're going through a crisis. You understand? So this is important.
President of Jamaica for Jamaicans, with support from friends in the entertainment industry, decided to provide the families with care packages.
It's basically a group, as it says, you know what I mean? Jamaicans for Jamaica. So basically, there's Jamaicans overseas, yeah? Jamaicans here who are interested in taking care of other Jamaicans. You know what I mean? So we decided to do this foundation because I started a care package. And from there, we decided to do this foundation because at a time like this, it's very important that we're giving back. So there's a group of people. There's Grapevine Marketing, Bounty Killer Foundation, yeah? Whites versus Colors, yeah? It's a group of people who have made the effort to make it possible. You know what I mean? So I wouldn't even say it's a solo effort, you know what I mean? Because it is an effort that had to have group and important Jamaican people to get it to this point. You understand? And no matter what I forgot through to them, G, just seeing this and being here at this point is good enough for me.
Jamaica for Jamaicans ensured all the procedures and protocols to prevent the coronavirus COVID-19 were followed on the day of the event. Over 200 masks were distributed to those entering the venue. Hands were also sanitized.
So basically I have masks for the kids, I have sanitizers, I have more sanitizers to come as the football game should proceed. I have a micro team that should be here each and every hour to spray down the bounce about.
Jamaica for Jamaicans plans to expand its outreach activities to other communities.
More projects in the pipeline, more communities, more kids, more development. But you know, Standpipe is where you basically say I live, I born. Well, I wouldn't say born, but where I grew. You know, I learned a lot here. This is my home, basically. So I had to start here first, you know what I mean? More self-development, right? More unity, more togetherness. I'm trying to set an example so people can understand, so it's not difficult. Just let's come together and we can do it. Because that's what I did. I had a vision, and it's a reality now.
Over 200 children and their families enjoyed a fun-filled day of relaxation while adhering to social distancing rules.
Well, today, as you can see, G, bounce about, bags giveaway, popcorn machine, cotton candy, hot dogs, food, and a football competition, which is very important, having a barefoot football competition, which at the end of the day, that's the most important part of the day for me, yeah, because I know the kids love football. So in a few hours, we have a barefoot football competition. The prize money is $10,000, and the best side win.
Reporting for the news on PBCJ, I'm Marlon Samuels.
Election debates begin on Tuesday. Jamaica will learn more about the Jamaica Labour Party and People's National Party's take on the country's social issues tonight. Representatives from the two political parties set to contest the September 3 general elections will ascend the podium for a live debate set for 9 p.m. The PMP's three-member team will be comprised of Dr. Dayton Campbell, Lisa Hanna, and Raymond Price. Meanwhile, the Jamaica Labour Party team members for the event will be Dr. Christopher Tufton, Kamina Johnson-Smith, and Floyd Green. You can catch it live on the PBCJ at 9 p.m. and on our social media platforms at pbcjamaica. Tax Administration (TAJ) offices will be opened between 8:30 a.m. and 3 p.m. Mondays to Fridays. The business hours have been adjusted in response to the revised 7 p.m. nightly curfew in Kingston and St. Andrew, St. Catherine, Clarendon, and St. Thomas. The Morant Bay tax offices remain closed in keeping with Government of Jamaica community quarantine currently in effect in that area. The new hours, which take effect today, Tuesday, August 25, are for all tax offices, while TAJ's business offices, including the corporate office, will now close at 4 p.m. each weekday. The National Water Commission, NWC, says its commercial offices across the island will now operate with earlier closing hours as the company seeks to ensure its customers and staff can complete business transactions ahead of the new curfew hours imposed by government to contain the spread of COVID-19. The adjustments, which become effective Tuesday, will remain in effect until further notice. The opening hours are Mondays to Thursdays from 8:30 a.m. to 3 p.m. daily and 8:30 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. on Fridays. The Jamaica Public Service Company's commercial office in Morant Bay, St. Thomas, was closed on Monday to facilitate deep cleaning and sanitizing after an employee tested positive for COVID-19. The employee, who was working from home, is now in quarantine. Carl Francis now brings us up to speed with the latest market reports. Here is the business report.
In Monday's trading session, the JSE Combined Index advanced by over 3,992 points to close at under 400,000 units. Overall market activity resulted from trading in 75 stocks, of which 25 advanced, 40 declined, and 10 traded firm. The junior market index advanced by 20.95 points to close at under 3,000 units. Stocks advanced for AMG Packaging and Paper Company, Caribbean Cream Limited, and Caribbean Flavors and Fragrances Limited. Stocks declined for 138 Student Living Jamaica, 1834 Investments Limited, and Barita Investments Limited. Trading firm were Dolphin Cove Limited, First Rock Capital Holdings, and Honeybun Limited. Sagicor Group Limited Financial was the volume leader with 2.4 million units, followed by Pulse Investments Limited with over 2.3 million units and Trans-Jamaican Highway Limited with 1.8 million units. Now for the foreign exchange, the US dollar on Monday, August 24, ended trading at $151.07. The Canadian dollar sold for an average of $114.56, and the pound sterling traded for $198.12. The euro ended trading at $180.33. Crude oil prices rose on Tuesday, supported by production cuts in the U.S. Gulf Coast as Tropical Storm Laura was forecast to become a major hurricane, while rising coronavirus cases in Asia and Europe capped gains. Brent crude futures gained 37 cents to $45.50 a barrel. West Texas Intermediate crude futures rose 15 cents to $42.77 a barrel. And that's it for the business report on PBCJ. I'm Carol Francis in for Gabriel Thompson.
In regional news, small business owners in the Bahamas expressed fear that they have to shut down permanently due to frequent lockdowns. Bethany McDermott tells us more.
Pleading with government to allow them to reopen, charging that remaining closed will force them to shut down permanently. CEO and executive chef of Seahorse Seafood Restaurant Ulysses Dean says he recently moved back to the Bahamas and built his business from scratch. However, frequent lockdowns are killing his business and he may soon have no other option than to shut down permanently.
I've never seen anything like this in my entire life. I just moved back from the U.S. like 2 years ago. I used to be the executive chef for one of the restaurants over there. And, you know, I built this from scratch. It took me 2 years. You know, I started with nothing. And, like, I'm about to watch it, you know, just go down. Like, it's crazy.
His comments come after the Prime Minister forced small, non-essential businesses to close their doors in hopes of curbing the spread of COVID-19. As a result, Dean says he was unable to hold on to his 13 employees. Should the lockdowns persist, Dean says it will be a disaster for his business, adding that while his doors remain closed, bills still need to be paid. With this grim reality, Dean says there seems to be no hope.
A disaster, like totally shut, closed. Like there's no hope. There is no hope. Even though the economy is stagnant right now, the bills are still there. You know, like BPL is not going to put their service on pause. Neither are the phone companies or the internet companies or the rent persons. They're not going to put that on pause. If the economy is on pause, you know, these things are not being paused. So I mean, life still goes on. We can't sustain another week shutdown. We just can't do it.
A similar sentiment was shared by owner of Cybertech Career College, Philip Curry, who told our news that while they've been able to hold on to their 30 employees, they too may have to shut down. He said his students' main focus at this time is surviving the pandemic.
Our classes starts in September. That's just a couple of days away. And if our enrollment does not improve between now and the next 2 weeks, we may find ourselves in some serious jeopardy. That means that we may have to lay off staff. That means that we may even have to close down for good.
Both businessmen plan to take part in the September 4th March, organized by Mark Turnquest, which is aimed at bringing awareness to the plight of small businesses. They had this message for government.
One of the things that the government can do is to offer grants to students rather than having paying tuition fees for all of the students to go to UB or BTVI.
If you look at many other countries around the world, businesses is still going on. The pandemic is going to be here no matter what you do. You know, it's not going to erase overnight. You can't ask persons to pause their life and pause their business because of a pandemic. Life goes on. You know, there's tomorrow.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Berthany McDermott.
Employers are being urged to follow public health guidelines as it relates to employees testing positive for COVID-19. Crystal Wilson tells us that concern is mounting among members of the public as positive cases continue to rise.
The past few weeks, a number of corporate establishments were forced to close their doors to members of the public after confirmation that an employee or employees tested positive for COVID-19. In other instances, businesses were ordered closed for sanitizing by public health officials after it was confirmed via contact tracing that the establishments were visited by a person or persons who tested positive for the virus. During Monday's Ministry of Health press conference, Principal Medical Officer Dr. Naresh Nandram outlined protocols to be followed when someone in the work environment tests positive for the virus. He said the number one priority is the COVID-positive patient.
If there's a positive case at any place of business, the first thing, our first priority is to get that positive patient into a healthcare facility to ensure that they don't decompensate and we don't have another family member being lost.
The next step, according to Dr. Nandram, is determining primary and tertiary contacts. The Ministry of Health then orders the establishment closed.
As soon as the Ministry of Health is made aware of the case and made aware of the business, we reach out to the business owners or the managers immediately and ask that everyone be quarantined and ask that the establishment be shut down immediately for sanitization.
Meanwhile, Health Minister Terence Dayal Singh emphasized every situation is unique.
It is difficult to have one glove to fit all sizes in this, but there are protocols online that any potential employer could look at, and the Ministry of Health will reach out and assist as far as humanly possible.
Crystal Wilson, TTT News.
In Barbados, the Minister of Education will begin meeting with teachers to get their input on the safe reopening of schools next month amid the COVID-19 pandemic. More in this report.
The first consultation, which will take place with secondary school teachers, is scheduled to begin around 9:30 a.m. at the Wilde Gymnasium. Also attending today's meeting is Minister of People Empowerment and Elder Affairs Cynthia Ford, Minister of Youth, Sports and Community Empowerment Dwight Sutherland, and Director of the COVID-19 Monitoring Unit Ronald Chapman. The minister is expected to meet with primary school teachers tomorrow at the same location. It is anticipated that over 1,000 teachers from primary and secondary schools will attend the consultations on both days. Officials say all COVID-19 protocols will be observed. The Ministry of Education must start evaluating teachers in the public education system if common entrance results are to change. That's according to veteran educator Jeff Brooms, who says the time has come to stop the talk about students at private schools outperforming their counterparts at public primary institutions in the annual exam. Brooms told Barbados Today that while he's bracing for a backlash for his comments, it is his belief that teachers at private schools are forced to perform and produce good results because their livelihoods depend on it.
One, I think the classes are smaller, so teaching can be more focused. Two, I think they get the necessary resources that they require in a more timely fashion. And three, which may prove to be most comforting here. I think their level of accountability for success is higher. They're held to higher standards of accountability than in public school, because obviously they can be fired a lot more easily than public school people can be fired if they're not performing. Teacher evaluations have to be very serious. We have to take them more seriously than we do. Teacher evaluations, annual teacher evaluations have to be taken more seriously. We just give them lip service as far as I'm concerned. Because I have to say, for 14 years I was the principal. No matter how many reports I gave, the ministry has never engaged me to discuss with the teacher yet. We work hard. We work in conjunction with the union also. And we have a system for annual teacher evaluation that they do not think is utilized properly. And because there is nothing that comes out of it. Principals reg, and principals reg. I do not think any substantive thing comes out of it.
In sports, retired Jamaican sprint star Usain Bolt has tested positive for COVID-19. Minister of Health and Wellness, Dr. Christopher Tufton, shared the information while responding to a question at a virtual press briefing.
I am not involved in the process of informing persons who are tested as to the results of their tests. I did have a conversation this morning with Mr. Bolt's management team, and we had a discussion which I prefer to keep between himself and myself. But as I said, we had a conversation. And sought to bring some clarity to some of the concerns that were raised. But that is a process that is administrative, and it involves a number of different players. And hence, as I said, I had a conversation with him coming out of those concerns.
Bolt, who celebrated his 34th birthday with a lavish party on Friday, is said to have taken the test on the weekend as he prepared to travel overseas. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Andrew Holness, also at the press conference, said the police are investigating the circumstances surrounding Bolt's party. He said the police commissioner has reported that since the outbreak of COVID-19 in Jamaica, more than 1,000 people have been charged with breaches of the Disaster Risk Management Act. In other sporting news, last week the Guyana Amazon Warriors defended the lowest total in Caribbean Premier League history when they restricted the Jamaica Tallowers to a mere 104 for 7, chasing a modest 118. Now the teams meet again today at 4:30 p.m. Jamaica time in the return fixture, this time at a different venue, the Queen's Park Oval in Port of Spain, Trinidad. The Tallowers are 4th in the standings with 2 points from 3 games, while the Warriors are just above them in 3rd place with 4 points from 4 games. And that's it for the news on PBCJ. Thank you so much for watching.